everyone, my name is Chelsea and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, we are doing the mid-year book freakout tag. So we are in the new library space. We're going to be trying out different places to film in here because even like right now, I don't know if this is good or not. Like, I just need some time in here. I recently actually set up the entire library. I'll have a video for that link down below in case you missed it. I had a lot of fun doing it. It took like 4 days, but we have the library set up done. I just don't 100% know like where I'm going to be filming all the videos. I'm currently sitting on the floor with my adult shelves behind me because this is stuff that I've read before. And we're going to be talking about like the mid-year book freakout tag, the stuff that I've read, the stuff that I need to read, checking in. I will say right now, this check-in is not one that I was very happy to do because we moved at the very beginning of June, and I've sort of been in a reading slump since then. Since even before then, actually, because in May, that was us trying to figure out the move. Even end of April was like getting into like, we are gonna move, let's start looking at places. May was like really trying to figure out the actual move because we got approved for a place. And so we moved in June, and I had not read anything for over a month when I actually finished some comics the last couple days. So I'm slowly getting back into that reading thing, but that means I am way behind. So yeah, let's get into this tag and talk about the mid-year. So like I said, we are going to be going through the actual mid-year book freakout tag. This was created by Chami and Ellie. I will leave channels and videos and stuff that I can find linked down below. This is a tag that like everybody does basically every single year. Truthfully, this is actually a little bit late for when I would try to get it done, but again, things have gotten in the way. I actually had strep for like the 3rd time in 4 months recently. I'm still technically getting over that a little bit, so like trying to film and stuff has just not been happening. I have a goal, and this is not something that we ever talk about, it looks like, at all during the book freakout tag, but I figured I should mention my goal for this year was to read 150 books. And according to my Goodreads, which does include my DNFs, whereas like my Storygraph doesn't because they have DNFs in like a completely separate section, but I do count them for like those 150 books I want to try and read. I am currently at 55. That means I'm 22 books behind schedule. I'm in the middle of like 4 books. One book is from April that I have never finished because I got into a reading slump and things. Another book is an audiobook that I was listening to before our move, and then it ended up being lapsed because of our move. I never finished it. And I'm now on the wait list for that one again through my library. There's weeks on that one, so that's probably not going to be finished anytime soon either. I did start an arc recently that I put down just because I wasn't 100% feeling the novel nature of it, so I switched to comics, and then I started another book last night. So I'm like in the middle of 4 different books, 4 very different sort of genres and stuff too, different age ranges. Like I have a middle grade, a young adult, and 2 adult books that I'm reading, but like I'm 22 books according to Goodreads behind, even more behind according to Storygraph. So yeah, we're just at that point. I haven't fully decided if I still want to keep my 150 goal or just like count this as a year that a big life change happened, because obviously we moved multiple states, cross country, however you want to call it. We moved, and that is a big deal. When I have had big life changes in the past, like being pregnant and having my kids, I did not have my book goal set to this high. But this was not something that we actually thought we were doing this year. We thought it was going to happen next year, but it ended up being the perfect time to do it, so we did. But that means I am slightly debating if I should change my goal to 100 instead of 150, because this is just a goal for me. It's not like I'm competing against anybody. I wanted to do 150, but like in general, when I have a big life change and I know I'm not reading for a while or I'm very distracted, I usually only have it as 100. So I might change that soon. We'll see. But otherwise, yeah, let's get into the actual tag. Number 1 is the best book that you've read so far in 2024. For that, I have a few, but I think currently as it sits, when I'm thinking about like what I actually would pick up and reread, I've been really wanting to reread Role Playing by Kathy Yardley. I had this tied as one of my best books the month I read it. I think it was February of this year. I had it tied with The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. However, Kirsty from K-Beth Bookish, who I am friends with, recently did a video that was like reading some of my favorite books and read Role Playing, and me watching her read Role Playing made me want to pick it up and reread it. And I don't even own a physical copy. Like, I definitely need to get my hands on a copy because I loved this one so much. It is like the epitome of friends to lovers, slow burn romance. I love the fact that we did have bi main characters and demisexual main characters, and it was talked about. Like, I just really loved that we got to see these characters become friends first. Like, the romance was not even in question at the beginning of this story, and then we eventually got that whole friendship aspect that did turn into romance, and that was like one of my favorite things. It was just like the perfect way of that progression. Like, that is what I want. I love the gaming aspect of it too, especially because like the way that all the gaming stuff and the friendship comes together is hilarious to me. Basically, our main characters, our female main character is joining this like RPG, MMORPG group online because she needs to get out more, and she thinks it's full of college students, which it is, but she thinks our main character is like 18, maybe 20, when he's not, because he's a college student, but like an older college student. And then she is joining his group as like a friend of his mother's from church sort of thing. Like, it's a friend of a friend situation, and his mom is like almost an octogenarian, so he thinks she's like 80 and she thinks he's like 18 or 20, and so even though they're both basically in their 40s, they're thinking they're complete opposite ages, like this will never happen sort of thing, and that friendship just blossoms in the best way. Yeah, I can't get over this book. I definitely want to reread it, and so as of right now, I think it is my favorite of the year. Number 2, the best sequel you've read so far in 2024. For this one, I'm going with The Weeping Tide by Amanda Foody. It is technically a sequel. It is book 2 in the Wilderlore series. The thing is, I've actually read the first 3 this year. Like, it's not a series that I started in a different year and I read the sequel this year. I have been reading it throughout the year. And this is the second book in this series. It is a middle grade fantasy series about Barkley Thorne, who lives in a town that is surrounded by this like woods area, and like he is in this town of people that don't have any magic or anything, and they're very sort of frightened of these other people, the lore keepers, that do have magic, and they have magic because of these like mystical magical creatures, and he gets roped into this world and then has to go into the magical area. The first book is great, don't get me wrong. It definitely introduces that lore and magic system in a great way. However, I think book 2 so far is my favorite. I'm actually in the middle of book 4. That's the audiobook that I was listening to that I did not finish before it went back, and now I have like 5 weeks or 6 weeks wait on it because it's a brand new release. This is a series I want to own because book 2 I think was actually my favorite. It really introduced more of a like friends aspect. Barkley is not as new to the world, and so I really liked the whole sort of found family and friends trying to solve the problems that are going on, because every single book has a new thing that they're trying to solve, obviously. And I've just been having a really fun time with this series. It is middle grade, it is very fantastical, but yeah, I think that's why my favorite sequel of this year and in general so far, especially in this series, is book 2, because it just does those elements better. Number 3, a new release you haven't read yet, but you want to. For this one, I am going with Hearts That Cut by Kika Hatzopoulou. Not only is this a new release I haven't read, this is actually the sequel slash finale to a duology, which was, the first one was Threads That Bind. It is like a sort of YA Greek mythology retelling, but like in a very fantastical, like alternate sort of world. Our main character of Io is a cutter. Like, she can see the threads that bind people to life and fate and all these different things, and she can cut them if needed. Her and her sisters are like the 3 fates in this world. We have lots of different mythology sort of stuff, but like very Greek influenced. Book 1 ended sort of like on a cliffhanger. I did see some of it coming, but not all of it, and I have been dying to get my hands on this. I actually do have it. It's a recent release actually, so I'm not like too far behind. but I need to know what's going to happen because I really loved book 1 so much. So yeah, this is a new release, relatively new release even, that I need to read and I just haven't yet. Number 4, mostly anticipated release for the second half of the year. I am so indecisive that I did this last year as well. I actually have 5 releases that are coming out in the second half of the year that I need. So number 1, we have Haunted Ever After coming out on August 13th by Jen DeLuca. Jen DeLuca, I actually think, yep, right here I have all the books, does the Renaissance Fair series, the Well Met series. I have read all of those, given every single book a 4.5 or 5 stars, have absolutely loved it. This one is going to be a paranormal romance set in like Florida. I don't know anything else about it, but I need it. I've actually have it pre-ordered already, and so yes. Then I also have Amari and the Despicable Wonders by B.B. Alston coming out on August 27th. This is another one I already have pre-ordered. It is the 3rd book in the Amari and the Night Brothers series. I don't know if there's another series title for that, but I loved book 1. Book 2 I didn't love as much, only because I felt it had a little bit of that second book syndrome. However, I really love the idea of this like fantastical world that's almost like a Men in Black sort of situation, where it's like all around us, but like normal people can't really see it. And I love our characters. I love the sort of friendship aspects again we have there. I think that's a big thing for me in middle grade books. But yeah, I need this one. Then I also have Celestial Monsters by Aiden Thomas coming out on September 3rd. This is the sequel and finale to the Sunbearer Trials duology. I read this one earlier this year, gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It is very highly on my list, if not a favorite so far, because we talked about role-playing. That one's a favorite for now, the top of the list. This one's very highly up there. This is a YA magical world where like LGBTQ characters are here. It's like very ingrained in the world, so it is queer normative, which I absolutely love. And it's dealing with, again, sort of like Hispanic or Latinx mythology. I absolutely have been loving it. I really loved the first one. I loved the character dynamics. It was just so good, like I could not put it down. And again, ended on sort of a cliffhanger, and I need to know what's gonna happen, so this is that finale. Then the next one I have here is The Merriest Misters by Timothy Janofsky. This one comes out October 1st, but it is going to be a Christmas romance. It is supposed to be husband material meets the Santa Claus. So literally we have a couple, a gay couple, who are married as far as I know, and we wake up to have one of them, I guess, think that he killed Santa Claus and has to take over that Santa Claus mantle. I'm very interested in this. I absolutely loved New Adult by Timothy Janofsky last year, one of my top books of the year, and so that's part of the reason I need to read this one. Oh, I don't know if I mentioned, I already have Celestial Monsters pre-ordered as well. The Merriest Misters I have an arc of right now, but I'm going to probably also end up purchasing that. And the last one I have here is Heavenly Tyrant by Shiran J. Zhao, another book that I have been dying for, because it's the sequel. I don't think it's a finale. I could be mistaken. I don't know if it's a duology or if it's an actual series. Of Iron Widow, which was my top book of the year that I read that. Like, I absolutely love that one. It is sci-fi. It has the Chinese history aspect, even though it's not like a direct historical thing. The mix of genres and like the actual character building and relationships and like the urgency of that book, I absolutely loved, and so I have been dying for this one. And it's coming out in December, as long as we don't push the date back again, because it's happened before. I need to have my hands on this as well. Okay, I readjusted how we're sitting because I needed to. Again, like I said, we're trying out different positions here in this room to see what's gonna work. But we're gonna move into number 5, the biggest disappointment. So for me, I think I'm gonna go with Those Beyond the Wall by Micaiah Johnson. This was a sequel, sort of, companion novel thing to The Space Between Worlds, which I absolutely loved. Again, that was actually my favorite book of the year. That one came out. I read it as an ARC. I have 2 copies because I needed the Illumicrate edition as well. This one just did not work for me. I actually got an ARC of this one and I had to DNF it. I was so turned off by this one, and I think part of it is it did not feel like a direct sequel to The Space Between Worlds, and I guess it didn't even feel like a companion novel either. We didn't get very many characters from the original book, and when we did, they felt out of character. The author sort of retconned a little bit of what happened in the first book, especially near the end, in order to bring some of these characters into this sequel. I did not like the writing style or the way that our main character actually like spoke. It was very jarring to see that coming from what I loved about the first book. And I think it was partly because the author does mention that she wrote this from a place of anger, and you can definitely tell that. Like, she was using this book as a catharsis in order to like get that anger out. But I think the vibe of it did not work as well for somebody who loved The Space Between Worlds previously. I'm wondering if this should have been a completely different book, different world, like just not connected to that one, because I absolutely loved it, but the pieces that I loved about it didn't show up in the second book. And then when she started retconning some of the stuff from the first book, especially stuff that I thought worked really well, it didn't work for me. I was disappointed in this because of the fact that I loved the first one so much and I built it up so much in my head, and it just didn't work. Number 6 is the biggest surprise, and for me that's going to be What I Mean When I Say I'm Autistic by Annie Kotowitz. This was something that I read for the Autism Acceptance Readathon, which I still have not edited my vlog for. This is something that happened in April. I am very, very sorry. I do think I'm still going to do that because I had lots of thoughts about a lot of the things that I read, especially with this one. It was a nonfiction that I gave 5 stars. And I don't read very much nonfiction. I've been doing a little bit more this year, and I just absolutely love this one. This is like half just like nonfiction about autism, especially somebody that is female, late diagnosed autistic, but also this woman's story. Annie Kotowitz is the author of Neuro Beautiful. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I will leave it down below if I don't get it right. But it's a blog that they were using to express like what it meant to them to have that late diagnosis and like figuring stuff out about themselves. So this book is like half informative and half personal experience. And I really love the fact that she does mention that this is what like stimming means and things like that, but like she also went into this is what stimming means to me, and not everybody who's autistic is going to do it in the same way. But so it was very informative, but it also was very emotional and heartfelt, and I just like really gravitated toward that. Like, it was really, really good. So it was a surprise to me because I knew going in it's nonfiction I might not enjoy it as much because I'm just not that much of a nonfiction reader. Maybe it just depends on the type of nonfiction I read, but I absolutely love this one. Number 7, a favorite new author that could be either a debut author or new to you. I'm going to tentatively say Kathy Yardley and Amanda Foody. These are both authors that have extra work that I need to read. I need to check out things that sound very, very intriguing, and I just haven't yet. Like, literally, they are authors that I have only read like one book or one series from this year, even though I know they have other things, and I absolutely love the writing style and the characters that they have done. And so I want to try them more before I like definitively say favorite author, but as of new authors that I've tried this year, those two definitely make the cut. Number 8, newest fictional crush. I think the easy answer is going to be Aiden from Role Playing, because I just absolutely loved that whole dynamic, everything about him and how he treats friends and that kind of thing. The other thing I will say is I am currently in the middle of Take a Hint, Danny Brown, and even though I have just started this recently, like yesterday, I am already very, very intrigued by Zafir, and so I think this could definitely be a new fictional crush as well. I'm very into both of these characters and seeing how this relationship is going to play out. I've also heard from friends and things like that that this is their favorite of the Brown Sisters trilogy, and so yeah. Number 9, your newest favorite character. This was a hard one to pick, so I ended up going with the whole Sunbearer trials, but like specifically Teo, Nia, and Aurelio. Like, that sort of group, they're not like 100% in a group together, but like Teo's friends in general, like seeing the vibes of those characters as they're thrust into this like make or break situation because of the fact that they're having to do these magical trials, which is like one of my favorite tropes, and dealing with the after effects of that, especially with Teo, our main character, not really being prepared for this because he's not like a top tier semi-dios, and the fact that like there are grave consequences at the end of this. Like, I just liked the way these characters came together and did this, and like their attitudes towards everything. Like, they're very personable. I think that's one of my favorite things about Aiden Thomas's writing, is the way that he does characters. And so yeah, I love them a lot. Number 10 is a book that made you cry. From my understanding, from my memory, I have not cried at a book this year. I do sometimes, but like I can't think of anything that even would fit necessarily into a crying category right now. So yeah. But then we have number 11, which is a book that made you happy. And for this one, I'm gonna go with Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. This is a cozy fantasy, and I think that cozy nature was exactly what I was looking for when I read this one. I give it 5 out of 5 stars. And it really is Viv, our main female character, getting out of being like a mercenary and going out and doing stuff like that, and wanting to run a coffee shop, and basically staying in one town, and we get to experience her figuring out all the different little things that she needs to make something a coffee shop. I really liked that, and like the characterization, and it was just like so cozy. I also love the addition of like Thimble, different characters that are obviously not human. Everybody's like a different fantasy sort of D&D race sort of thing. I really love that. One thing I will say, just because I know this is brought up quite often, is that it is sapphic, but it's not a romance. Like, this is not a cozy fantasy romance. It is cozy fantasy. There are hints of like the potential romance, but there's not like an actual romance, even side plot. So just keep that in mind. It is basically just a cozy fantasy, but I'm gonna assume in a queer normative world, and I just really love the vibes of this one. Like, it made me happy. Number 12, the most beautiful book that you've bought so far this year or received. Now, this is technically a little bit of both because it came in a book box, but I've been very good lately about making sure the books I get in book boxes are ones that I want. So I got it, I received it in a book box, but like I would have bought it for myself as well because it sounded very intriguing. It's gonna be Voyage of the Damned by Frances White. I absolutely love the cover of this one, but I also really love the color scheme that they chose to do for Illumicrate. I love that it has the like foiling aspect, and then because it is Illumicrate, we do have like sort of like the extras that make it just like a little bit better in my opinion. So we have the sprayed stenciled edges, we do have just like dark teal on the top. Underneath, again, beautiful foiling. I love that aspect. I love something underneath the dust jacket. And then our end papers on both sides are this like map of the ship. And so from my understanding, because I have not read it yet, even though I should have, this is going to be like a fantasy take on like an Agatha Christie novel. So we're gonna have a murder mystery, I think, at the center of this. But our characters that are in here have magic. I think one of them doesn't though, so it's like an outlier sort of situation. This is also going to be queer. Like, I need to read this because it is gorgeous and has lots of things that I'm like, as soon as I heard it, I knew I needed to read it. And I haven't yet, but like, it's just so pretty. And then number 13, our final question, is what books do you need to read by the end of the year? So I feel like I always have a ton of things that I feel like I need to read by the end of the year, and then some years it doesn't happen. But this year, what I need to finish, what I need to read is my book club picks. So because I got so off track with moving and everything like that, book club had been suspended for a little bit, but we had books picked for months already. So I had the April book club, which was Minimum Wage Magic by Rachel Aaron. I'm in the middle of this one. I really want to continue. It is like an urban fantasy sort of thing, but I need to finish it so that we can have our meeting on it. We also had our May book club, which was After the Forest by Kel Woods. I actually did finish my reading of this, but we need to schedule the meeting for that one. And then we also had Light from Uncommon Stars for June by Rika Aoki. This one I need to read because I really was so interested in reading this for Pride Month, even though we do have LGBTQ books throughout the year, especially in the book club. It just happens. But this one is like a mix between Good Omens and The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, and our main character is like sold her soul to the devil because of wanting to play the violin, and now in order to get it back has to like kill violin prodigies or something like that. And we have a trans character and different things like that, like a space captain. Like, I don't know how everything comes together, but I really wanted to read it. So again, I need to read that one so that we can eventually get to that. I think because of the way the book club has been working, I'm going to skip July, which I did not want to do. but to give us a little bit of time to catch up, and I will make an announcement video soon about how we're going to do all of that. But one other book that I really want to read by the end of the year is Go Station by S.A. Barnes. I mentioned this in a different video a while ago, that this is going to be a book club pick as well. I am now thinking potentially September, because we're getting into that, maybe October. I think I mentioned that before as well. Like, I couldn't pick September or October, but this is a new release for this year. I love Dead Silence by this author. When I read that one, like, it was one of my top books of the year. And so we're just at the point where I'm like, I know I want to read this. I really want to discuss this with people as well, because I know somebody, one of my friends, that did not like Dead Silence, and I would just love to like have that as a discussion. So this is another book club pick that is going to happen by the end of the year. So yeah, basically just book club stuff. That is my drawing my line. That is where we're going to end up. So that is everything from me today. If you see this tag and you want to do it, feel free, because basically everybody does it around this time of year. I hope this is not going up too late and people still want to watch, because I feel like some years people just put this out earlier and earlier. Like, some people put this thing out at the beginning of June when it hasn't even been halfway through the year yet. But like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, it is a little bit later than I would like, but you know, moving and strep and all that fun stuff. Yeah. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up to let me know. Subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see more videos. I do have videos coming out on Tuesdays and Thursdays and sometimes Saturdays, so I will see you then. Bye!